Hey guys, welcome to Drop Dice. So I am back again with another No Excuses Play the Game video, this time another indie game because I love indie games in general. This one is from a friend of mine over at Third Eye Games, Eloy Lasanta. I just wanted to take a quick moment to shout out the guy. He's awesome and you should definitely check out his work. So I'm going to mainly talk about Ampere 1, which is on this side. They also came out with Ampere 2, which is a sequel, and I'll talk about how they connect to each other and how the game evolves because of this. Let's talk about the basic premise of what AMP is first. So AMP is a modern superheroes game that is stylized similar to the show Misfits. Basically, supers are brand new to the world, and so the idea that there's these emerging powers, some of them are stable, some of them are unstable, some are kind of fearful, some are just trying to discover who they are now that they are something more than human. So AMP is definitely a really neat game for personal development. I really like that aspect of it. First off, let me state I'm not a huge fan of supers games. However, there is one type of supers that I love, which is personal exploration and discovery. So games like this really catch my interest. There's another one that I'll probably do another video on, just kind of touching upon, called Masks, which I did do a game of, which you guys can check out here on the channel if you haven't done it. It's an apocalypse world game, so I probably won't do another No Excuses because that falls under the Dungeon World one. But AMP is a little different. It's a little bit more technical. Let's talk about the mechanics of it first. So the mechanics are a d20 plus 2 skills, and to create a skill combination. For example, if you wanted to run, it would be athletics and speed. However, if you wanted to run through a field full of objects like trees and things like that, maybe it would be athletics and survival to navigate your way through the trees. Just to give you an idea of what those skill combinations are. Now, if there is absolutely nothing it could be paired with, like let's say you're just lifting a weight and there's just not anything that makes sense with it, it's your athletic skill times 1.5 plus the d20. So for example, if you have 3, it becomes 4 because it rounds down, of course, plus the d20 roll. And then it's compared to a DC number. No big surprise there. Pretty much every game boils down to compare roll to DC number. But where AMP really shines and makes itself different is how it portrays being a super in a world that is drastically changing and very rampantly changing. Year 1 is really interesting because, like I said, it is the year that AMPs emerge. You're part of the first group that really show up. There's no heroes, there's no villains, there's just people. And some people are embracing it. Some people are fighting against it. And if you play as one of the AMPs, you're most likely one of those people that are just kind of feeling your way around, discovering what it is to be a superpowered person at this point. Year 2, it kind of develops a little further, and you see that there are gadgeteers that start to evolve, which you can kind of see on the cover there of Year 2. And basically it's like mankind's response to the supers coming forward. And I'm really hoping in Year 3 we get some like oppressive government stuff coming up, but Eloy's a busy guy and he just put out Year 2 not too long ago, so I would be a little surprised if he turned around and put out Year 3 anytime within like the next short period here, because he's got a ton of fun stuff, especially another game that I will be doing on a No Excuses video once it drops, which is called Ninja Crusade. Another video for another time. But this game, what it does is it allows a lot of freedom while still reinforcing the main mechanics. One of the things that I really like is called loyalties. Basically, it's the iconics of what it means to be a superhero, what you care about, what the things that the GM in a good supers game is going to attack. A good GM in a supers game will never really attack you. Attacking you is pointless. A smart villain will think about the things that you love and care about and then attack those. So while you get a lot of thug villains that will attack your character directly, the one that you're going to remember is the Joker, because the Joker goes after Robin, and you're Batman and you care about Robin. That's the ultimate supers in a supers game, is to get that moment where not only you as a character care, but you as a player care, because he's now doing something to destroy who you are. Definitely a cool thing to have inside the game, so I love that that's actually one of the main influences. The next thing that I would like to bring up is how the powers work. Powers are super cool. They use this system called Juice. Juice is basically adrenaline. you start with a static adrenaline number or juice number, which can fluctuate up and down depending on circumstances. If you get too relaxed, it'll go down. If you get too excited, it'll go up. There is a certain cap, and then you can actually basically get too much adrenaline and get a burn effect. Definitely kind of a cool idea there. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention was how the powers are created. You basically pick a strain, and strains are archetypes of super beings like Blaster, Bulks, which are super, like big, bulky, massive people, elementalists. You get the idea. But you pick one that you mainly are, and that's where your main powers come from. However, you can spend a little experience to go outside of your normal power branch. So the one that I picked last time I played, which is also on the channel, was a psych, and I had the ability to speak with spirits and hold seances, and my character was really low end on the super spectrum. He just was a little weird. He had ESP, but then he learned the ability to manipulate the spirits themselves and create weapons that were made of souls and things like that, and that's what really made him shine as, oh, he's a super at this point, because that's a manifestation that people can see. Having that ability, not being a comic book guy, I was super excited about it because I didn't know of any supers that could do that sort of thing. And I'm sure there are other supers or even villains out there that could do pretty much anything that this book describes. But I mean, for me as a person who's not super into supers, to be able to explore something that is just kind of weird and coming in kind of sideways into this supers game was right up my alley. However, if you wanted to come in as the iconic, I want to be like Cyclops, have eye blasts and energy beams and all that stuff, you could totally do it. But I think a lot of the value in the game is actually having the ability to split your powers, branch into other powers, and kind of meld them together to create and tell a unique story and theme out your hero. And theming is my favorite thing, is like reskinning, theming, and all that. When a game encourages that, that's a good game in my opinion, and Eloy has done a great job of doing that inside his games. Now, Year 2 basically is, like I said, the continuation. It is exploring more into it, so you get to see how things evolve. And the cool thing about Year 1 and Year 2 is inside the book there's a timeline about what the year is, and there's news events and things like that. And so as a GM, what I did when I ran it myself is I never let my players interact with the things that were going on inside the news unless they chose to, but I would use the events in the book inside my game. I'd track the calendar, and as things went along, I'd be like, oh, you see a news flash, they found giant footprints outside of this city. That's weird. And I wouldn't bring it up again. But it made the world feel really real to have that calendar there. So one of the things that I would say as a takeaway is maybe you should develop a calendar of strange events that would be newsworthy if you're playing a modern game. I thought it was a very good touch to be able to include that sort of thing, because it would be things that players would have some knowledge of, even if their characters just don't watch the news, because people like me just don't watch the news. But I do go to work, and I do hear my coworkers talking about things that are on the news, so I'm kept in the loop of things that are important as far as I'm concerned. But if there was giant footprints outside of your city, you'd probably want to know about that. You would find out one way or another. So that's definitely a cool thing there. Now, the last thing that I will say is the game takes a little bit of work to get your characters set up. Just filling out the character sheets the first time. However, once you make it through the character sheet the first time, you will burn through it and make characters in no time. I think the first time we did it, we took like 30 minutes to fill out character sheets because we were making sure everything was done right. We were like going kind of slow. But after that, we made characters again, and it was like 10 minutes and done. Super easy, very, very fluid, easy to get right into the game. With that, I did want to mention that they do have a very good Google group, so if you do decide to pick up this group, you want to check them out. It is AMP Year 1, I believe, or just maybe AMP now. I think they might have changed the group name, but it's on Google. You can definitely check that out. Eloy hangs out there pretty often, and the crowd is very quick to answer questions if you have any. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you at the gaming table.